CoLife is modernizing housing for the next generation by making it easy and safe to rent a room in an owner-occupied home. Today, I talk one-on-one with the founder of CoLife, Derek Snook, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Derek Snook, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. You know, obviously, you're an author and entrepreneur here in the Low Country. And of course, I had you on Quintin's Close-Ups many years ago when you voluntarily lived with the homeless for many, many months here in Charleston and beyond. But now you're back on Quintin's Close-Ups because you have a current company called CoLife, which is modernizing housing for the next generation by making it safe and easy to rent a room in an owner-occupied home. Let me ask you, Derek, why this? Why now?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think that if you kind of look at the narrative of my life, the obsession that I have is really human trust and connection. And so whether it's me living in a homeless shelter for a year, for those of you that know me in Charleston, I can be quite extroverted and I love to meet people. Or whether it's driving a car from Mongolia to London, kind of the common theme is human trust and connection. I love talking to people. I love understanding what makes them tick. And one of my theories is that a lot of our biggest social issues, whether it's housing, whether it is isolation, whether it's mental health and loneliness, whether it's even elder care, even some climate things, I think they're really first and foremost issues of human trust and connection. And if you can solve for that, then you can really solve a lot of major social problems. You can also create some really big businesses along the way. If you think about housing specifically, it's a pretty strangerphobic society that we live in. People are oftentimes very weary of strangers, but the truth is that in the last 50 years, the average American home has doubled in size. Americans have not necessarily doubled in size. And so in the process of actually extending the borders of people's homes, one neighbor from the next, we've created this kind of huge housing crisis, and along with other things. And the resulting problem of that is communities start to really suffer. Teachers can't teach close to where they can't live close to where they work at their schools. Same for nurses, same for our hospitality employees, same for our restaurant employees. And ultimately, that's how communities die. If people can't live close to where they work, they go work somewhere else. So we've got this big housing problem, but to summarize it and then bring it back to you, the good news is we've created the solution to solve that housing problem inside people's homes. And it turns out that there are millions, there's 24 million people nationwide who live alone in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. They own their home. No matter how you cut it, they have the extra space and they have a room and they have a bathroom and they can share it with someone and they're willing to, but there's no current safe and easy way to match the two. So I feel as if I'm kind of going on, but CoLife is basically a safe and easy platform that matches renters, all these nurses, these teachers, these grad students, these Uber drivers, these people, city employees, NGO, people that we need to make society run and function at its fullest potential. It matches them to owner-occupied homes. And what we do is we run a credit check, a background check. Our algorithm gives them their perfect match. We then give them an up-to-date lease. We then will guarantee the rent to the homeowner. We give them the proper insurance and protection plans on both sides against their belongings, against their home. We have a housing attorney if anything goes wrong, and we basically cover it from start to finish, anything that could go wrong. And it's a really beautiful and joyous thing to see a 30-year-old that's going back to nursing school living with a retired business owner paying like $800 a month to live on Broad Street.
Which is uncommon here in this town.
Yeah, utilities included, and then they have a wine and cheese night once a week and watch a movie together. They're best friends. She lives there the whole time she's in nursing school. And it's just a win for everybody.
So how many nurses do you have right now?
We've had thousands of people sign up for CoLife. And right now we have over 100 homes that are available today in the Charleston area. So
yeah.
And
where exactly are those homes in what areas of Charleston?
Anywhere within a 25-mile radius of Charleston.
Wow. Wow.
So, I mean, as far out as Somerville, as close out as Mount Pleasant, sometimes downtown, but, James Island, it's everywhere, all around.
Now, how many all together when you talk about the nurses and the grad students and the retirees?
I mean, we've had thousands of people sign up. We have hundreds looking at any given time, but the people that are looking for housing are usually moving very fast. Like they got to find something in 2 weeks, or else they're in trouble. The homeowners are oftentimes more patient, and they're looking for the right fit for their home.
Mm. So, how many of those people have actually had to come to you in 2 weeks to just find that ideal match?
I mean, we've had hundreds in the Charleston area. Mm. Yeah. And now, you can go to Google and see all the reviews.
Yes, I saw that as well. Now, I know that CoLife creates co-living relationships between A-plus homeowners and fantastic better renters, as you mentioned, based on common values and living styles. So, how many renters have actually been vetted so far?
I mean, every single person that comes to the platform does their background and credit check, and then they are vetted with a cursory overview before they can start matching with homeowners. So we've had thousands of renters sign up. So all of them.
And how have you actually conceived the culture behind this concept?
The culture? What do you mean?
Yeah, how have you conceived a culture behind this concept that you have? We've never heard of this before. So what was the thinking behind that? Yes, sir.
I mean, so for me, it's basically just accumulation of my human experience. So, I was obsessed when I was living in the Mission. I mean, I always tell this story, but I was terrified to move into this homeless shelter. And when I did, my entire life, I've been taught this idea of like, go to this school, get these grades, get this job, buy this kind of house in this part of town, marry this kind of person, have these kind of kids, get them to repeat the process before you die. And I moved into the Mission thinking like, oh man, I'm really screwing up my life here. It was voluntary. It was voluntary.
Right.
And then everybody thought I was nuts. And the first day I met a guy, and I asked him, I said, what do people really need who are living in these kinds of situations? And I expected him to give me the long list of things that I was told my entire life that I needed. And instead he looked me in the eyes and he said, Derek, we need the same thing that everyone needs, which is hope. And that was kind of like the moment for me that was like, oh, life is about a lot more than what I think it is. And so it sent me on this deep exploration. And then my entire adult life, people kept saying like, you need to live alone, yada, yada, yada. But instead I just kept living with other people. So like I met an Air Force pilot on Craigslist and I lived with him and had the best time of my life. And I met a 65-year-old retired therapist and rented an apartment from her behind her home and just made these really close, deep connections. And through the process of doing that, and, when I traveled all of 2018 after I exited my first company, I lived in a refugee camp off the coast of Greece for a couple weeks. I lived in a monastery and spent some time in silence in France. I lived with people with disabilities in Slovenia. I lived in an intergenerational community. And I think I've just kind of learned like the magic that helps people do these things that they might otherwise be terrified to do. And, if you can make it safe and easy for them and they can see success story after success story, then they're comfortable doing it. The other major thing that people forget about is like, Quintin, 50% of Americans living in major cities up until World War II lived in boarding houses. So like I'm on Colonial Lake, and a boarding house, a fundamental form of a boarding house is it's an owner-occupied home where you rent out multiple rooms. So on this lake, 3 homes, including the one that I live in, which I'm not going to point to, it was a boarding house. It was a boarding house. So 3 homes on Colonial Lake were boarding houses. This is not really a new concept. It's an old concept. And in fact, if you go around the world, the vast majority of human beings are still living in communal environments like this. Americans are really in the minority of saying like, I need my big ass house. I need all my space. I need to push my neighbors away. We're the ones in the minority here. So like what we're bringing back is not so much a new concept. It's an old concept, and it's a really popular one.
And I know
it's fun. It's fun.
Fun. Yeah. And I know you got to run to your meeting at 10:30. But let me ask you, How much has housing doubled in size here in Charleston over the past 2 years?
No, housing. The average 3 bedroom, 2 bath house has doubled in size in the last 50 years. So the average square footage of a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house in the 1950s was like somewhere between 1,000 or 1,400 square feet, and now the average American home is twice that.
Wow. And where do you see that happening? Where do you see that going in the next 5 years?
Housing?
Yes, sir.
That's a good question. The other thing I always have to tell is, so I'm a son of a Baptist minister. C.S. Lewis, his version of hell is this place where, yeah, we're getting dark real fast. His version of hell is this place where people grab their little pile of things and they just hold it closer and closer and closer. And out of a lack of trust and out of fear, they kind of push their neighbors away. And so, like, I think that you see that with housing right now, where people just clutch onto their pile of things. They naturally have extended their borders. They're pushing their neighbors away. And, people are afraid of people, which is really sad. But, if I go talk to this group of strangers over here, it's a fun little experiment. And I'm just like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
But she does have a dog. Oh, I have to say hi to your dog. Please, 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 please. Hey! Hey! I'm actually doing a TV interview right now. So what's your dog's name?
He's not mine. I'm in Rover.
Luca? All right, Luca's famous now.
Yes.
Luca! Hey! Best interview ever. So back to answer your question.
Yes, sir.
I mean, people so here's the deal. I'll never forget, this interview is going to be so bomb. I was walking down King Street on a Monday night.
Sure.
And this group of college girls looked over, and there was a sign on Cocktail Club that said closed due to staff shortage or something like that. And they were like, what the? And they just were so upset. I went to the Blind Tiger on a Wednesday.
Right.
It was closed. Lack of staff.
Huh.
The Dewberry for a long time. You could not book. You couldn't stay there for a week. They were only able to open 5 days a week. So Charleston and major cities around the U.S., their backs are against the wall. And you know what? I love Airbnb so much. I love some of the bigger forces that have created this problem. But at the end of the day, cities have to do something to answer the call of what they're going to do to keep their cities functional. So the people that take out the trash, that provide all these critical services. So there's got to be a solution. And it's kind of, I'm not interested in making it moral, but it is moral. And so people that sign up for CoLife, our homeowners, are incredible human beings. One of the biggest common themes is that the money is helpful and it means something to them, but they're almost always they're lively, they're living long lives. They're 30-year-olds that want to pay off their mortgage faster, or they're 67-year-olds that want to stay open to the world and want to have new experiences, and they want to help others, and they want to serve their community. And so our users are the kind of people you want to throw a party with and hang out with. They're super awesome folks.
Yes, sir.
Housing has to change. There's just so much macro pressure on this problem that either cities are going to shut down or they're going to find ways to adjust. And my experience is that cities are kind of handcuffed in most cities around the country by their own sort of rules. So, they're building units, but those units might cost them $200,000 each to build. I don't know how many they're building a year, but we can create, right now we're creating our units for less than $2,000. The cost to acquire the customers, to match them with the software, and that cost is going to go down to $500 or $600 as we grow and scale. So it's economically just way more proficient to use CoLife.
So what software are you currently using?
We build it. We're a venture-backed scalable company that's backed by VCs in San Francisco.
And I want to talk to you about that as well in the next interview. But let me ask you this. So what should Charleston do right now to adjust to, obviously, the growing pains for housing, uphold housing, that is?
I mean, I don't know that I'm the expert. Do you want me to throw my hat in the ring on what we should do? Quintin, are you asking me to step outside my lane? Because I don't mind stepping outside my lane, but I might get hit.
Uh-oh.
It's up to you.
You tell me. You tell me what's on your mind. Can they adjust or will they suffer?
Well, I love the leadership of Charleston. Mayor T is the bomb. He's a good friend. So I think that cities and governments have their approaches. I think that the more flexible, the more innovative, frankly, Daryl, that was the Charleston housing, or sorry, county. It was county.
Right. Oh yeah.
He signed up for CoLife.
Right.
And he took a job in Richmond, and he texted me, and he was like, "Could you bring CoLife to Richmond?" And we're currently expanding to Atlanta and Charlotte right now. So, cities can partner with us in innovative ways, and we can guarantee them units at a fraction of the cost. Most cities are restricted by sort of like the proceeds of the use of funds, right? So they have their own problem, and we can't wait for them. But in general, more units. I guess I'm definitely on the side of no one's going to build their way out of this problem. And even if you build your way out of the problem, you can't get the Blind Tiger more employees because there's not real estate available close to the Blind Tiger. But you know who has the closest affordable, attainable unit in the city of Charleston to the Blind Tiger? It's CoLife, because we have a sweet retired business homeowner on State Street who lists her home on CoLife, and that is the closest attainable unit. So I think that making use of the available space is definitely the way to go. I'm a big fan of the mayor. I'm a big fan of ADUs. I'm a believer that there's no silver bullet, but I don't think it's a housing problem. I think it's a human trust and connection problem, and that's what I'm a pro at solving.
And how many homeowners do you have, and how many renters do you have?
So we've got over 100 homeowners right now in Charleston. If everybody that needs a place to live goes and signs up at CoLife.fit or letscolife.com, they will find over 100 homeowners in the Charleston area. And we've got 100 renters or more looking at any given time. But the homeowners come on slower, and they take longer to find the right fit. The renters are moving fast. They're like fly by night. Catch them if you can.
Right.
But a lot of renters find a match, and sometimes they have to find something else. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. The sad thing is when they our average rents are $800, $900 a month, including utilities. It's furnished, it's flexible, it's great. It's sad when a renter is in so much of a rush that they have to sign $1,800 a month. But they do that out of desperation.
And I know you have to go to your meeting, so I want to continue this conversation. But
now I'm having too much fun, Quintin, and you know what? I mean, there's going to be some more dogs out here at Colonial Lake soon. So bring your dog. I want to pet him. That's one of my life rules, is I try to pet a dog every day.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Quintin, ask me something hard. I need a hard question before I go.
Oh, I have plenty of hard questions, but you got to go to your interview next meeting.
I said I'm gonna make another 4 minutes. You got to hit me with the hard balls. Hit me with the hard balls. I want to be challenged, Quintin. Challenge me.
Well, let me ask you this: When starting CoLife, did you have an asset heavy or an asset light business model?
I think all software is asset light. You build, asset heavy. I don't even know those terms, but asset heavy is I'm going to go buy Charleston Place Hotel. That's asset heavy because all my money's in the asset. Software is always asset light. That's why venture capitalists love it. Because once I build it and make it work for 100 people, I can do it for 1,000, and then 100,000, and then 1 million. So I would say asset light. But again, I'm not a business pro like that.
Now, when starting CoLife, how many small number of units did you operate?
We started with the first one. It's all owner occupied. So I literally walked into coffee shops, and I would walk up to strangers, and I'd be like, "Hey, I got this idea. I want to tell you about it." And they'd be like, "Okay." And then I would tell them about it. And then if they liked it, I would be like, "So do you want to sign up?" And some of them signed up. So yeah. It just one by one.
Now, one by one. How has confidence grown among many local investors about the potential growth of co-like living sectors here in Charleston?
The vast majority of our investors are not local. They're in San Francisco, so they're
Right,
ex Sequoia. One of them invested in 6 unicorns. So Sequoia is the most famous VC firm in the world that's invested in Apple, Google,
right.
Facebook, everybody that's big. Local investors have been largely risk adverse to investing in this kind of a business. It doesn't fit the vast majority of their profiles. However, that said, we've got some of the best angel investors in the world who I love, who are local, and I got their backs for forever because they took a big risk on us, and we're going to make it worth their while as best as we can.
Now, how many players, when you talk about San Francisco and other places, are offering a limited stock of units for you?
What? Say that again?
Yeah, how many? Let's say, how many investors are offering a limited stock of ADU units, for instance?
How many investors are offering stock of ADU units?
Yes, sir.
So our investors for CoLife put in money. They're usually, the vast majority are not listing their housing units. And we are only in Atlanta, Charlotte, and Charleston right now.
Right now.
So I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question. You definitely got me on that one.
Let me ask you this. Since the inception of CoLife, have you had to face any direct institutional or legal barriers to grow your company?
No, and in fact, one place where the city's been super helpful is if there are any issues, but there's not, because all of our housing, we're Airbnb plus a dating app.
Sure.
I prefer Hinge for housing, and so all of our stays are a minimum of 30 days. And so for that reason, we're not restricted by any of the kind of different rules that cities have. So we're there to solve their problem.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Yes, sir.
Well, and it's been real. You want me to play landslide for you before I go? You want me to play landslide? Huh?
You have to go to your next meeting.
Yeah, but I can play landslide if you want. I've been practicing.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
You can play for the renters and the homeowners. That'll be good.
Well, yeah, they can hear it on your show and then they'll want to sign up. But,
yeah.
All right.
Derek Snook with CoLife. Thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Hey, anytime, man. This is the most fun I've had in a while.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Love you, Quintin. Peace.
Okay. Bye-bye.